Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of AppSec 101. My name is Andrew Garrett, and I am a product marketing manager here at Fortify by OpenText. I am pleased to be joined today by Matias Madou, and Matias is a security expert, researcher, CTO, and co-founder of Secure Code Warrior. With his Ph.D. in static analysis from Ghent University, he joined Fortify back in the day, where he came to the realization that it was far too easy to find security problems in code if you never teach the developer how to write secure code in the first place. So from there, Secure Code Warrior was born. And when he is not at his desk as part of Team Awesome, he enjoys being on stage presenting at conferences such as RSA, Black Hat, and DEF CON. So Matias, it's great to have you on today. Before we started our recording, I didn't realize you were previously a part of the Fortify team. So welcome back.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And absolutely, I always enjoyed working at Fortify.
Absolutely. Well, as you know, Fortify is now a part of OpenText, and we strive to address not just application security, but all phases of cybersecurity for organizations. And today we're going to be touching on an aspect of application security, which Secure Code Warrior plays a big part, and that is the area of secure by design. So Matias, when you hear the phrase secure by design, what does that really mean?
Interesting question, because we actually talk to a lot of companies and we ask the same question, like, what does secure by design mean? And for a lot of companies, it's not immediately towards application security or the software. They mainly think about multi-factor authentication, moving away from passwords, that type of stuff. It is, of course, a big part in application security as well. So if you think about secure by design and application security, to me personally, and based on my conversations with our customers, it means a couple of things. It means that your software is developed, and it's developed in a way that you consider what can potentially go wrong. So essentially, you do some sort of a threat modeling, a design review, an architecture review with security in mind before you even start the development of that piece of software. That is one thing. A second piece of secure by design is using secure components. If there are secure components there, please use them, because then guess what? You will not need to use Fortify or Secure Code Warrior, because those components are simply secure, right? Of course, it doesn't work for all pieces of software, but if there are secure components out there, please use them. Third, it is definitely a security shift and a mindset shift as well in the people on the ground, which means that they need to think with security in mind. And that's more easily said than done, of course. It requires work to make sure that all people think about, okay, we need to put security maybe at the first place, but it should rank high up there when they are developing code. They need to think about, okay, how can we build that in the most secure way possible? And last but not least, it is about scanning and remediation and making sure that what comes out of the pipe, the code that comes out of the pipe, is essentially validated. And if it's wrong, that the people on the ground understand what's wrong with the code and are able to quickly mitigate the problem and make it secure. So in short, and that was a long answer, but in short, secure by design and application security consist of multiple facets, and they all contribute to making sure that code is developed in the most secure way possible.
Yeah, and I like that you touched on the fact that the people on the ground understand what's happening with their code, because I think really that's the ultimate goal. when you have developers that are thinking about security and they're making it a part of their development process, that's really the ultimate goal, is achieving DevSecOps, where security is not just an afterthought, but it's actually a part of the process. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. So and a little bit the best analogy that I can use over there, it cannot be bolted on. And if you think in terms of building or constructing a house, you can say, well, you know what? Let's put a burglar alarm later into the house. It doesn't work that way. You have to drill holes and you have to do damage again to the house. And I even think that analogy is not entirely correct, because you think about security, you think about a burglar alarm, but application security is more the electricity in the house to me. It's more the electricity. And if you do not put the electricity correct into your house, you can burn down the house. You wouldn't consider it a threat, but if you put it incorrectly into the house, you can burn down the house. So that is the best analogy that I can use. It's not a bolt-on. It needs to be done by professionals. You need to know what you're doing. And if you know what you're doing, electricity can be 100% safe in your house, and you're not going to burn down your house. You're not going to do any more damage than necessary.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that analogy a lot. Well, let's talk about the benefits of, when you think of a development team, they're doing all the right things. They have best practices in place for security,
Mhm.
and they've implemented this idea of secure by design into their process. So what are the benefits that this team will see by, abiding by these rules of secure by design?
Yeah, so secure by design to me has a little bit of an upfront cost, because I've just mentioned already 4 things that you have to do with secure by design, and 3 out of 4 can be done before you even write one single line of code. So it will cost you something. There is an upfront cost in making sure you select secure components, in making sure you do a design review, in making sure that all your developers are upskilled and know about how do I create secure code. So there's a little bit of an upfront cost, but the benefit is huge, because you will have less rework in the end. And you've read my bio. And I I I moved on from Fortify because I thought it was all too easy to find problems in code. But that is essentially very interesting, because if you upskill your developers, if you make sure your developers are writing good code, then you have the most benefit of a solution like Fortify. Because guess what? Fortify will find the hard to find problems in code, the really interesting problems that will bubble up through a Fortify solution, because the developers know what they're doing. And still, Fortify is able to point out hard to track problems. So that is pretty interesting to me. So overall, if you implement a secure by design, if you do a secure by design initiative in your organization, has an upfront cost. The benefit is that you will have less rework. Ultimately, a Fortify solution will find the hard to track problems. So ultimately, you will go faster. You will go faster. The velocity of cranking out code will be faster. You will have less rework. People will know what they are doing. So the Fortify solution will give them less, will find less vulnerabilities, and essentially they go faster. That is my promise, and we can even prove that, because we've written a white paper together with Kemba Walden and Chris Inglis on the benefit on secure by design through an upskilling initiative.
Yeah, and as you were talking there, Matthias, I was just thinking, another analogy popped into my head. This idea of, like a foundation. If you're pouring the foundation for a house,
Mhm.
and you take shortcuts, or maybe you don't grade it the right way, that's going to affect the rest of the entire construction of the house. Um,
Absolutely.
and so I was thinking of that in terms of security. Going back to your point from before, if you're bolting it on at the end, if you're leaving it as an afterthought, it's really not going to be as effective as if you're thinking about it in the beginning. And like you said, there may be an upfront cost. If you are pouring a foundation for a structure,
Mhm.
to do it the right way, it may be more expensive up front, but it's going to have a longer lifespan. It's going to last the test of time. And I think that's the important thing to remember with security is let's start thinking of it as something that should be taken seriously right from the start. That's something we like to say within our Fortify team is don't just shift left, but start left, and you'll be much better off in the long run. So,
Fixing a foundation is extremely hard. If it's in a house, if you want to fix the foundation, and I can actually relate to that. If you want to fix foundation in a house, it's never going to be like you did it correct the first way. And it's the same for software. We never stop the applications. We never stop the software from running. There's only one company that I'm familiar with where they started cranking out new features, which was Microsoft back in the day, when Bill Gates made that whole manifesto about security. Then they actually stopped software development with new features, and they went back and they fixed the code over there. But for a normal business, that's unheard of. So yeah, ultimately, it's good to go a little bit slower in the beginning to make sure that all the right bits and pieces are in place, and then you will go faster ultimately.
absolutely. Well, we've addressed the benefits of secure by design. That there may be some viewers watching today that are thinking to themselves, "Oh man, I'm not really doing this. I've done a bad job of this in the past." Well, what would be some recommendations to them when you think of, a developers or a DevOps team lead, if they're wondering what can I do to start implementing secure by design? And you
Yep.
mentioned, it's hard to go back to the start and start over. You can't start completely over, but are there things they can do to start implementing these practices on a day-to-day basis?
It's never too late. So first things first, it's never too late to start a secure by design initiative. And I must say, all companies are pretty much in the same boat. They have a lot of legacy code. They started with something which was not developed with security in mind. So quite often, what I'm just preaching about secure by design, the four things, it's really, really hard to do because people already have code. We're building on top of old code. That doesn't mean we cannot change the status quo. There's always going to be legacy code. There's always going to be code that needs to be maintained and that we need to update. Even there, it is possible to slip in secure by design components. It's of course important that the developers and the architects know what they are doing, that they did their research, that they are essentially skilled professionals. Um, it's always easy if you start with a new project. It's always easy if you start with a new project, then you can do the threat modeling beforehand. But it's quite often not a reality anymore. Like starting from scratch is almost not done in today's world. Quite often we start with something. So if you start with something, think about, hey, can we use somewhere as a component to get rid of an entire class of categories, for example? There are components where if you have a lot of, say, SQL injection, you can use a particular library or you can use a particular component to get rid of most of the vulnerabilities. Quite often, it still requires some work to get it embedded, to get it implemented, but think about secure components. Upskilling your developer population is a very good one. Quite often, you rely on the application security people. And guess what? That is one or two, or if you're lucky, three people per 100 developers. Imagine being the one person that has to make sure that 100 developers on a day-to-day basis write secure code. That is nearly impossible. So the only way you can break out of that is making sure that the developers help you. And the way you can do that is essentially upskill those developers and making sure that those developers know what they're doing, know about security, and they are going to essentially help you out. And they're going to help out the company in writing less problems in the code. So that is another way of thinking about getting out of the problem. upskill your developer population so they help the security department. So those are a couple things that you can do to start weaving in a security initiative into your organization. Maybe if you allow me, I would like to add one more thing. I think it is fantastic if developers and the people on the ground, the people that are really doing it, think about a secure by design initiative. The reality is the people at the top need to believe in that as well. Because if they only want to crank out features at the fastest way possible, and they do not want to make that upfront cost of upskilling people, of looking for secure components, of scanning code and having some fast remediation in place, well, then it's going to be an uphill battle. So to me, it is always top to bottom and bottom to top if you're talking about a secure by design initiative. The people at the top need to believe in it, and the people that are really executing on the vision really need to make sure that they believe in it and they have the tools and the time and the means to essentially write secure code.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Matias. And having that buy-in from the top is critical, because then I think what happens is it begins to permeate throughout the entire organization. If you're just one person, like you mentioned, one person among 100 developers, it can be hard to make headway. But if you have this idea coming from the top down, where everyone's on the same page, everyone understands the value of application security, then that's really what fosters a culture of security champions. So I think that's a great point.
And if you think about making that a reality, there are some means on making that really a reality. If a company is convinced, if a company says, we are going to take that serious, we are going to start developing secure code, there are ways on how to enforce that. For example, they can only allow people to check in code that are really skilled. So we can say, hey, you know what, baselining, we do that everywhere, right? I know the Fortify solution is preaching that as well. Like, hey, make sure that you're not introducing more critical vulnerabilities. Let's set a baseline today. This is where we're at. Let's make sure we're not going above this particular baseline. But you can do the same thing for people. You can say, hey, you know what? Our critical applications, only skilled people can check in code into those critical applications. There is a baseline here. There's a line that cannot be crossed. You need to be skilled. You need to show that you can code correctly. We're going to verify that. And if you're a verified secure coder, then you can check in code into those repositories. And I think that is very, very powerful. That's a way to really enforce then that you're taking secure by design serious.
Yeah, that's a great point. Not just the processes, but the people as well. We have to think of both, because you can have the best processes in place, but if you have the people who are not trained on security best practices, that can be just as much of a threat as not having the secure processes in place, right?
Yeah, and maybe the interesting part is with a solution like the Fortify solution, you can say, oh, this particular repository is bad. There's a lot of critical problems with this particular repository. And with a solution like Secure Code Warrior, what you can see then is like, well, of course it's bad, because the people that are working on this particular repository have essentially no clue about writing secure code. So our prediction is, in the future, it's not going to get any better. Worse, I think it's going to get worse over time, because those people are not security skilled. So my best prediction is, over time, they're going to introduce more problems. So this repository is going to even be worse over time. So the best next action is here, well, probably upskill your developers first, and then give them time to fix those problems that the Fortify solution is pointing out.
Absolutely. Well, Matias, we are coming to the end of our session here. But before we say goodbye, I wanted to ask you if you have any final thoughts or any final recommendations to our viewers today?
Any final recommendations on Secure by Design? Maybe for the people that need to sign off on budget, let's put it that way. People that say, well, Secure by Design sounds costly, will I ever get my money back? You're saying you're going to go faster. Can you essentially prove that you go faster? So my final tip to those people would be, we've conducted a study, as I've mentioned before. It's about that short-term investment, that upfront investment that gives you a long-term benefit, a long-term gain. So if you're here for the long game, if you're at the company and you say, you know what, I really want to make an impact in the long run, I would highly, highly recommend reading that white paper where we essentially prove that there is an ROI if you implement a Secure by Design through upskilling initiative. That would be my recommendation. If we're talking about, hey, is this a reality? Can this be a reality in my company? And will it benefit my entire organization?
No, I think that's great. And Matias, as you mentioned, Secure Code Warrior is a great solution to help upskill developers. For those that are unfamiliar with Secure Code Warrior, I will put a link in the description so you can learn more about the solution and how it actually integrates into Fortify solutions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great thing, right? If you think about Secure by Design, if you find a problem, you want to fix it as fast as possible. And we know there's AI, but hey, let's be honest. You still need skilled people that know what they're doing with the AI solution. They cannot just hit a button and say yes, 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 because that is pretty dangerous. So absolutely. So we do integrate with the Fortify solution. If Fortify finds a problem in Java SQL injection, then we can give you a really relevant training module so that your developers, first of all, know how to fix the problem, really understand what the problem is, know how to fix the problem, and not make the same problem anymore in the future.
Right. And the thing that I like about Secure Code Warrior is, it's gamified training. So it is very engaging. This is something that, people are not going to be bored or, banging their heads against the wall. It's engaging and it's teaching you best practices. So what more could you ask for?
Absolutely.
Well, Matias, thank you for taking time out of your day to speak with me today. And to our viewers, I would like to invite you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to Fortify Unplugged. We always have new videos around our solutions and also, thought leadership pieces like this with Matias, experts in the industry, giving you best, tips and recommendations around application security. So please hit that subscribe button. Also, if you have a question or comment for Matias, please leave it in the comments down below. And we'll see you next time on another episode of AppSec 101. Thanks so much.
Thank you.